After decades of running over pedestrians in open-world action games without a second thought, it's a revelation to suddenly think of each one of them as a potential hero. Watch Dogs Legion's clever twist plays on that idea, like a hacker version of State of Decay. Every character you recruit has their own weapons, abilities, and traits. That lends it much more of a sandboxy feel than previous games, because any given character can make the same mission feel dramatically different. It can be rough and experimental in places, but I have to hand it to Ubisoft for being willing to take chances. Legion's vision of a near-future London is beautifully detailed and recognizable, but also starkly different from how we know it. Its skies are filled with autonomous drones, streets are filled with a mix of old and self-driving cars, and its landmarks are emblazoned with corporate fascist banners and bright holographic projections. It's a cool look, though cruising around busier areas can definitely tank your frame rate, even on an RTX 2080 Ti. The protagonist isn't a single character, but the entirety of the DedSec hacker group that resists a techno-fascist police state that's taken over the London metropolitan area. There are some major political themes in play here, such as privatizing the police being a bad idea, and how giving up personal privacy for convenience and security is a good way to end up in a near-future dystopia.
With the launch of Project Themis, London will be the first city in the world to be made truly safe.
Every chapter of the story plays out like a Black Mirror episode about technology and greed run amok. I've definitely seen most of these same ideas in movies and on TV in the past decade, but it does have some decent villains going for it. Your ally characters are all pretty bland, but DedSec's resident smartass AI, Bagley, is a genuinely funny, persistent voice in your ear.
So long as you don't cock up that badly, you'll be my favourite operative today.
Well, that's motivating. Let's go, Bags.
The big idea of Legion is that any NPC can be recruited into DedSec, and that's pretty well realized. Just walk up to anybody you see on the street, check out their abilities, and then do a mission for them. Usually that's something involving beating up some gangsters or wiping some incriminating evidence. Then they'll join up and become playable. It feels a bit like hunting Uruks in Middle-earth Shadow of War, and finding a powerful character is like striking gold. There are enough personalities in the mix that I didn't see a lot of repetition in my single playthrough. Though if you choose to spend your time recruiting an army, you're bound to see some of the same quests a few times.
You get to that evidence before Albion, and I owe you my fucking life.
These folks are less powerful than a typical action game character because they never individually gain new abilities like Aiden and Marcus did. It can feel a bit limiting to only have access to a few weapons and skills at a time, but it's actually kind of refreshing to not play as a jack of all trades. I did feel like I'd seen most of what Legion had to offer in the first third of the campaign, but finding new and unique people to play as refreshed it every once in a while. Just look at this weirdo street magician pimp.
Sounds like you're up to some naughty business.
The most interesting characters play substantially differently. You can use someone with lots of guns to shoot up most missions, or you can use cameras and drones to reach an objective without ever physically setting foot in an encounter area. Alternatively, recruiting a member of the private police company and using them to infiltrate guarded areas plays like a Hitman game. There are a lot of possibilities, and the intricate level design goes a long way toward enabling you to come up with different ways to approach most of the scenarios. While characters don't level up, there's a selection of persistent upgrades available to the whole group. I liked how these are unlocked using tech points you gather by exploring the world and going out of your way to find them during missions. It's a good way to encourage you to investigate every area of the map rather than just racking up XP with headshots. By default, getting taken down in a mission sends a character to the hospital or prison, and they're unavailable while they recover or do their time. But playing with permadeath enabled, the stakes feel much higher than in any GTA-style game I've ever played, because losing someone means they're straight up dead and you lose access to their skills permanently. Sure, some of them are easily replaceable, but the special characters are hard to come by. I've had some memorably close calls, plus a couple of losses I'd classify as some bullshit. In general, though, it's not too hard to stay alive if you're careful. Your health recharges quickly, so even when things look dire, a tactical retreat can save your bacon. A cheap upgrade allows you to do a free melee insta-kill on a bad guy every 30 seconds or so, which makes it very forgiving even when you're caught. And thankfully, there's barely any fall damage. But even if you do lose some people, it's going to be fine. Getting more isn't hard, and you're frequently pointed toward new elite types to recruit. Still, I often found myself wishing Legion had gone even further to differentiate these characters, and given me real reasons to take people with negative traits. I wanted to invest in individuals and make them even more powerful, but also take a bigger blow if I lost them. Really, there's a whole world of roguelike design ideas out there, and Legion only scratches the surface. There is plenty of it, though. If you're stopping to smell the roses, do side quests and recruitment missions, and collect optional stuff, I could see a playthrough lasting you in the neighborhood of 40 hours. Oh, but heads up, the online co-op mode hasn't been switched on yet. That'll come in December. Currently, there's no multiplayer at all. And we've seen a few crashes, so if you can wait for a few patches, that might be a good call. Watch Dogs Legion takes Ubisoft's open-world hacker game in an interesting new direction by letting you swap between the inhabitants of a near-future London almost at will. There's enough variety in the ways they play to make that a good trade-off for not having one traditionally progressing character. And playing with permadeath enabled ratchets up the tension of infiltrating heavily guarded areas. It's technically a little rough, but its more sandbox-style approach is a good idea that sets it even further apart from the GTA series. For more on Watch Dogs Legion, check out the first minutes of gameplay, then watch our tips for the 12 things to do first. And for everything else, stick with IGN.